So essentially, in this section of the podcast episode, we are going to talk pros, we're going to talk cons, we're going to talk about whatever comes to our mind, and we're just going to ride the wave. We're going to ride the night bus. That's what we're going to do. So, Matthew, I will throw it to you. What did you like about this movie?
So number one, the biggest thing to me that I liked, and you and I have had these conversations before, but sort of the times in our lives when these were coming out, we were aging obviously as the movies were aging, and to me, this feels like the largest jump in aging of the characters. So, and as far as the books are concerned, obviously they're very chronological, and there's less of a noticeable difference in an age gap. But as far as the actors and actresses in this movie, everybody noticeably aged, and then that kind of ties along nicely in with sort of the maturing of the storyline, where it starts to sort of delve into a little bit deeper. Everything, the scary parts are a little bit scarier than the first two movies. The parts of the movie that are dramatic are maybe a little bit more dramatic, a little bit more realistic than the first two movies. It seems like they turned a corner with this movie and took it from, okay, these are some pretty young British actors and actresses that are doing a very good job, but it's like, it's, in the first two movies, I, even to this day, and I notice this, they don't age amazingly. It's not like that. When I sit down and rewatch the movies nowadays, the first two aren't my favorite to watch, just because it's difficult to relate to that when you're an adult now, and you're seeing, the whole character development and how young the actors and actresses are, and how young they are in the book. They're 11 years old in the first movie, whether or not they actually are or not. For some reason, the third movie, it's just a little bit easier to watch as an adult, as far as like maturity of plot and storyline go.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree with that. I think that was one of the things that Alfonso Cuarón was definitely aiming for with this movie, right? Was that was more of his signature style, is telling a more mature story. So to make a great fit that someone with his sensibilities and his ability to make something, to enhance the scale of Hogwarts, of the Wizarding World, right? And kind of bring to life this more mature kind of aesthetic, not just in terms of the kids being older and the storyline focusing more on that, but also in terms of certain changes of like the wardrobe that the characters are wearing, the way certain scenes are shot, right? The lighting and whatnot. So I feel like a lot of those kind of things help kind of bring that to the forefront, and it makes it a lot more noticeable in this movie.
It's definitely a whole embodying experience of, you've got the actors that are obviously aging and maturing. You can't ever stop that. You've got the natural progression of the storyline, which is predetermined by the books. And then you have the director doing a fantastic job of physically and visually changing the feel of the movie, and probably as well with some of the delivery of some of the lines and the dialect of the movie, to kind of, like you said, age everything like that and turn a corner, make it be more of a mature movie. So
Yeah, and like for me, a couple of the things that I think that are just done so well in this movie. There's great character scenes in this movie. Like when you think about right away, you have like Harry and Arthur Weasley uh, talking about Sirius Black at the Leaky Cauldron. You have all those character scenes with Harry and Remus Lupin. You even have like scenes with like Harry and Hermione. There's Harry has that moment with Sirius Black towards the end. And excuse me, like this movie does such a good job of highlighting those scenes, those emotional beats, just letting the movie pause for a second, just taking everything in and really exploring those characters, what they're going through. So in a way, it's more relatable in that aspect, and I feel like it's something that is done to a better degree. I feel like than a higher degree, I should say, than the previous two movies. And I have to say, they should have just let Crookshanks kill Scabbers. Would have saved all that trouble. Just let the cat get the rat. Be done with it.
I mean, that could have been, yeah, you could have ended the whole series right there. Yep, totally done. Kill Peter Pettigrew, and what
Yep.
a suiting end it would be. But yeah, no, it's definitely, to me, looking at the first three movies as a trilogy. The first two movies do a lot of setting up, as far as getting, the first movies, obviously you get to learn the whole process, you get to understand what a wizard and a witch is in this world, and you get to kind of learn about Harry Potter as who he is, and what his character is and why his character is, and you get a little glimpse of Hogwarts. Well, and then in the second movie, I would almost say that Hogwarts is sort of the main character in that movie, where you obviously have Harry, Ron, and Hermione running around and being the trio that they are, but at the same time, those three, as well as the audience, are learning about the origins of Hogwarts and the founders of Hogwarts, and delving a little bit deeper into who Voldemort is. And so the third movie is really the first of the three movies to sort of solely focus on character development. We're getting to see the deeper emotions, some of the deeper connections that Harry is going to have later on in the stories, especially with Sirius Black, who, spoiler alert, we find out is Harry's godfather. So, and actually a good person. He's not an escaped convict and a terrible person. So the third movie is kind of where we're truly able to fall in love with the characters that make this story what it is, which is also, which you probably will touch on, or we're going to touch on, kind of ironic because of the new actor that has come about in playing Dumbledore.
Exactly. Yeah. And while we're on the topic, let's talk about it. How do you feel about the new take on Dumbledore? Of course, for those who maybe don't know, Richard Harris, who portrayed Dumbledore in the first two movies, passed away just before the second one actually at theaters from cancer. So they had to obviously recast the role. And it's actually interesting because looking back on it, I didn't realize until just recently Christopher Lee was approached to be Dumbledore. The Christopher Lee, Count Dooku from Star Wars. He was in the Lord of the Rings movies, right? And I guess he turned it down, and it ended up being Michael Gambon. And to me, I thought it was the perfect choice for where the movies were going and what kind of role Dumbledore was going to play in those movies. I feel like this was a more fitting choice for where it was going. Don't get me wrong, I think it's really cool what Richard Harris did in those two movies, those first two movies. But I can't envision the same that Dumbledore taking on Voldemort in the fifth one. Let's say in the big action spectacle at the end of that movie, right? I can't picture that. It'd be a much different kind of scene for me if I'm trying to, to me, I feel like that would be like watching Ben Kenobi in A New Hope taking on Vader. I feel like it'd be that kind of a fight scene. You know what I
It's
mean?
it's definitely, yeah, you're totally right, because in the first two movies, though they aren't focusing on character development, so it's, well, and I speak of it as though it isn't the book that also set this all up, but Richard Harris is extremely noticeably old. He's
Yes, yes.
it's really easy to tell that he's old, and
I mean, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no, go ahead.
he's not even that old. he just appears
Yeah.
that old because he was near the end of his life.
hmm Yeah.
Yeah.
A- And so let me put it this way. So when I was watching, I did not notice the first time that I watched the movie. I remember that specifically because this was a big deal. A little background on my family: both of my sisters are huge Potterheads. They both pre-ordered all the books and fought over who got to read it first, because my parents weren't going to let them buy two books, so they got to buy one book, and then they had to share it, and they had to trade off every other chapter, I believe, was
Wow.
sometimes some of the rules. um,
Interesting.
yeah, but I think that they did a good enough job of silently changing the actor that played Albus Dumbledore that I guess I wasn't really old enough to remember the news back then and know if it was a news story or not. But I specifically recall it was after the movie had released and had premiered and was out of the theatrical cycle and was on DVD that I was watching it when I noticed it. And I was like, wait a minute. Why does this Dumbledore look different than the Dumbledore that I watched in this exact same movie on the movie screen? And some, I can't remember who it was, but they're like, no, it was always a different Dumbledore. So somehow, within my own crazy mind, I had sort of placed a different face over the top of Dumbledore for this movie or something when I was watching it right away or something. I don't know, some sort of, I want to say Freudian slip, but I know that's not the right sort of terminology to use for that. But
Didn't realize we're going Pink Floyd in here. Jeez.
yeah. So, though it's never good when somebody dies, obviously, but I think especially talking about development for the future movies, this was something that definitely benefited the movies as a whole.